So, for my final project, I wanted to talk about homelessness in LGBT youth. Um, and my name is Nathaniel Kenner. And so, as an introduction, I wanted to go over intersectionality really quick. Intersectionality, I like to describe it as the point where all of your identities intersect, hence intersectionality. Oftentimes, you see these are ability, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, and sex. Um, and you're often held to this golden standard. In America and in Western society, the golden standard is often able-bodied, cisgendered, white, Christian, heterosexual males. And intersectionality can be used as a metric to determine your social mobility. And any deviations from that golden standard mean you have limited social mobility. One way I like to put it is it's easier for a white man to be gay than it is for a black man to be gay. And so, one of these intersectional identities that I think is really important and doesn't get enough attention is LGBT youth. LGBT youth, they have a lot of barriers that they have to overcome nowadays. Um, they are one of the highest rates to, or they were, they're one of the communities that suffer the highest rates of mental illness and suicidality. And what I wanted to go over particularly was the homelessness, where 8 to 37% of homeless youth in Ireland identify as LGBT. And LGBT youth are 4 to 13 times more likely in America to be homeless than their heterosexual or cisgendered counterparts. And there's a certain amount of invisibility to the LGBT youth homelessness. One of them is lack of self reporting. There are a lot of people who don't consider themselves homeless if they have a friend's couch to sleep on. Another worry, especially in the paper about the Irish LGBT youth, um, they don't want to self out themselves. They don't want to out themselves as LGBT for fear of repercussions that it may occur. And then the third reason that LGBT youth are semi invisible is shelters don't really take down that information. A lot of shelters feel like there may be an ethical boundary or a social boundary they're crossing by asking if these youth are LGBT. And so that's why there's such this widespread of 8% to 37% or 4 to 13 times more likely. And so some of the key factors to homelessness in LGBT youth um, are very interesting. And the the biggest key factor is parental rejection. Parental rejection occurs when a youth comes out to their parents as LGBT, and as a result, the parents kick them out of the house. And oftentimes, it's not even the actual act of them kicking the kids out. There is a lot of um, youth homelessness that's due to fear of parental rejection. It's not even the act itself of them kicking out their child, it's fear that your parents will kick you out, and so you run away instead. Another factor to homelessness is abuse. 29.8% of homeless youth in abuse cases identify as LGBT. And mental illness is also a huge predictor for homelessness. It's one of the biggest predictors, including um, mental illnesses such as bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. Um, those are often the biggest predictors for mental illness. And as we discussed earlier, LGBT youth are at a greater risk because of their deviation identities from the golden standard. So, what I think about when I think about youth homelessness, especially in the LGBT community, is I picture a young boy who determines that she is transgender. She's a transgender woman and she decides to come out to her parents. Her parents kick her out because they don't agree with her lifestyle. So she goes to surf some couches with some friends, does what she can here and there, but ultimately ends up homeless. Tries to go to a youth shelter, sometimes in foster care. Sometimes foster care families are just as abusive as the previous families. She gets abused. She suffers from the depression, the anxiety, the post traumatic stress that happens with it. And you get this really grim story for this girl who could have grown up and become something great. But instead of she could have become something great had the hurdles not been there in front of her. And so ultimately, I think we need more resources for LGBT youth. And I think we need more education to the general public in order to just show them how difficult it is to be LGBT, and also to show them that we need to, as a community, come together and solve these problems. We should no longer have these us versus them type situations. So the resources I found, I really enjoy the resources I found. The San Diego LGBT Community Center, it's our local LGBT community center, and it focuses on providing resources to our LGBT community. Currently, they have a housing program that focuses on providing shelter for homeless youth. And they also have a parental reunification program that tries to have a psychiatrist mediator talk to both the parents and the youth, which I hope is going well. You can learn more about them at the website provided. The other resources I have are the Trevor Project, which is a national foundation that focuses on suicide prevention in uh, LGBT youth. They offer 24/7 crisis or services. They have resources, and um, they are a very helpful foundation. You can learn more about them at thetrevorproject.org. And finally, we have the Human Dignity Foundation, which is a San Diego centered foundation, and it focuses on promoting positive changes, especially positive financial changes in the LGBT community. So they often do things like funds to help provide um, resources to these different programs like the Community Center and the Trevor Project. They do grants for schools, and they also do wealth expansion programs in order to teach LGBT youth about how to properly handle finances and things like that. And you can learn more about them at sdhdf.org. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.